The year is 2020. For nearly 5 decades, we have known about the heating of our planet and ignored the early warning signs. However, to ignore these signs today is like staring at the sun and pretending it's night. Governments need to take action to address this crisis as quickly as possible, because every day we stall, the worse the outcome will be. But to decarbonize centuries of infrastructure over the course of years is no easy task. It'll require the mobilization of American workers at levels similar to those during World War II. But it has to be done, and it can be done by enacting a Green New Deal. Welcome back to the next episode of Planet Zero. So in 2018, after the November elections, the Democratic Party started to seriously think about the path America would take towards reducing its carbon emissions. Too much time had passed with no meaningful action from either the Democrats or Republicans on a crisis that threatened stability across the globe. This was not a new idea, however. The concept of a Green New Deal had been designed years before by Green Party leaders like Jill Stein. But now it was finally gaining traction in popular politics.
I'm announcing my plan for a clean energy revolution.
But what exactly even is the Green New Deal? Why is it so controversial? Why do some say it goes too far and others say it doesn't go far enough? Let's break it down. On February 7th, 2019, in the first session of the 116th Congress in the House Resolution 109, a formal proposal was made in order to enact a Green New Deal in America. The beginning recognizes that human activity is the dominant cause of observed climate change, and the threat that climate change poses to not just the developing world, but specifically to Americans. Most notably, the proposed $500 billion in lost annual economic output by the year 2100, and the $1 trillion in damage of public infrastructure and coastal real estate. To address these issues, the Green New Deal proposes 5 major steps. 1. Achieve net zero levels of greenhouse gas emissions. 2. Create millions of good-paying jobs in the process. 3. Invest in more sustainable infrastructure. 4. Secure a healthy, sustainable environment for generations. And 5. Use these new policies to reduce the inequalities seen across race, gender, and income. Now, these are no easy tasks. Furthermore, there really isn't any sort of concrete plans to address them. Rather, it's a set of recommendations for what future policy should focus on. This is why some people say that the Green New Deal is too vague, or too intangible, or that there's no possible policy that could even address these issues. However, the next section of the Green New Deal breaks it down into smaller, more detailed steps. Now, we're going to be focusing on the ones that we find to be the most important, but a full PDF can be found in the description below. Okay, so arguably the most important step is to get 100% of the power demand in the United States through clean, renewable, and zero-emission energy sources. This means halting the extraction and burning of fossil fuels as soon as possible. Instead, our energy must come from renewable, carbon-free sources like solar, wind, nuclear, hydroelectric, and geothermal. Electricity from solar and wind is now actually cheaper than electricity from fossil fuels, meaning that once the infrastructure is built, it becomes cheaper to switch rather than to stay. And it wouldn't take up as much space as people say it would. A recent MIT study found that to power the whole country with solar panels by 2050 would mean using about the same amount of land currently allocated to coal mining. But some have concerns about the stability of electricity that comes from unreliable sources, because what if the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing? First of all, in a country as big as America, there is always going to be a spot with sun or wind. It's just about getting the infrastructure to move the electricity where it's needed. And even if this still isn't enough to meet demand, carbon-free energy from these sources will cover the rest. Second, batteries can store charge that's built up as excess throughout the day and redistribute it when needed. For example, solar panels on your roof could charge your house's battery during the day while you're at work, and then keep your house lit up throughout the night, backed up from the local grid. There's no doubt that America has the production and the innovation to actually solve this issue if we really put our minds to it. Another step the Green New Deal goes over is working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States to remove pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. This is the step that's always brought up when people say the Democrats want to take away your burgers. Just to clarify, there is no part of the Green New Deal that even proposes a ban on cows, Rather, it highlights the fact that a quarter of our methane emissions come from cow burps. This is due to the fermentation process that happens in their stomachs when digesting grass. One option for this issue is to dramatically reduce the amount of beef raised, sold, and consumed in the United States, treating it more as a luxury than a daily staple. It sucks that it has to be this way, but cutting back on our beef is not the end of the world. Now, once again, no one is advocating for the total ban of cows, but we have to address the fact that cows are a source of methane pollution and contribute significantly to climate change. For now though, there are feed additives for cattle that can significantly reduce the amount of methane they emit. If these were subsidized in a Green New Deal, which is totally feasible, all these cattle farmers could keep their cows and lower their methane emissions at the same time. The last step we want to cover is the overhauling of the transportation systems in the United States to remove pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Now, some of the ideas proposed for this are the classic electric car subsidies and producing more electric buses, all powered by clean green energy. And these are all well and good, but they're not truly sustainable. The batteries that operate these vehicles contain lots of toxins and rare elements, mined typically from developing nations, harming the local environment and indigenous communities in the process. Now, we should still 100% move towards electric vehicles. The cons from them are way less than the cons from oil-powered vehicles. But what would a truly sustainable transportation system even look like? First, there would be ample room on the roads for bike lanes and sidewalks to encourage stepping away from the gas pedal. Second, there would be an electric bus or subway system far more advanced than the ones we have currently, so that everyone's needs would be met. Third, high-speed rails could connect the country so that flight isn't the only way to get from LA to Denver or Houston to Chicago. Planes are one of the biggest contributors to emissions from transportation, so the less we use them, the better. Finally, any vehicles still on the street would ideally be electric cars, driving the number on the road as low as it can go as public transportation gets better and better. And the best part is that all of this technology exists today. We need to strive for this if we are to have any chance of avoiding a climate catastrophe. Finally, we're going to answer two questions that come up a lot when people talk about decarbonizing America. First, how are we going to pay for all of this? Well, we would have a lot more money if we close the tax loopholes for the rich. Close the tax loopholes for the rich.
Close the tax loopholes for the rich.
Just for context, in 2017 and 2018, Amazon did not pay a single dollar to the federal government in taxes. If you had Amazon Prime during these years, well then congratulations, because you paid more for that than Amazon paid in taxes on billions in profit. Just let that sink in. Also, Amazon is not the only company that does this. According to the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy, at least 60 of the nation's biggest corporations didn't pay a dime in federal income taxes in 2018 on a collective $79 billion in profits, and many actually received millions in government rebates. This means that the United States lost out on $16 billion worth of lost tax revenue in just 1 year. Think about what all that money could be used for. Second, if countries like China produce more carbon dioxide than America, shouldn't they decarbonize first? This is the normal skeptical reaction when shown that in 2016, China produced 29% of the world's carbon emissions, whereas the US produced only 14%. However, we cannot look past the fact that in the time between the Industrial Revolution and now, the United States emitted 25% of all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, whereas China produced 13% of it. This means that a quarter of our current man-made carbon dioxide increase is caused solely by America. Also, Americans have one of the highest emissions per capita in the world today, over double that of the average Chinese citizen. This means that America holds a special responsibility to begin phasing fossil fuels out of our economy for good. If we enact a Green New Deal, there's no telling the sort of chain reaction it can have on a global scale. We need to be leaders in the face of this crisis, not followers with our heads stuck in the sand, waiting for someone else to do something. The Green New Deal does not mean a loss of jobs, a government taking away your cars and burgers, or dismantling the military. It means a chance for new, sustainable innovation. A chance for Americans to redesign our infrastructure more thoughtfully. A chance for us to move beyond this era of reckless pollution by shifting jobs into more renewable sectors. If America had the power to switch its production so easily during World War II, nearly 80 years ago, it has the power to do so today. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about everything that you, as an individual, can do to help fight climate change. There are some simple steps we can all do today to lower our individual carbon footprint. Yes, corporations and industry are huge polluters compared to individuals, but that doesn't mean we can't alter our habits to live more sustainably. Join the discussion in the comment section below, please keep it respectful, and make sure to like and subscribe to support Planet Zero. Oh, by the way, we have a Patreon now, the link is in the description. Okay, bye!